This is Phantom Electric Ghost, and we are live on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch channels with Noisecide. We have previously talked to you guys on our audio podcast, and now we're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
in 2020.
yeah, yeah,
2019 or
19.
2020.
Yeah, I think it's a while ago, before
Oh,
the pandemic.
yeah, yeah.
And then we started last year. Well, actually, late this year, well, early this year, we switched to this video format, which
That's great.
allows us,
That's great.
to talk to see the people we were talking to. And
Exactly. Yeah,
then one of the other added benefits is we can see we're queuing up is we can actually play your video,
that's great.
which
Yeah,
also gives the fans, because when we were talking on the audio podcast, we go into depth and we talk a lot about how you create your music, but then nobody really heard your music. So now,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, now we can actually show your video, so we can show what you look like. We can, and then
Yeah.
we can actually, people can hear what you sound like before we talk about your music, which was kind of backwards before, but
Uh-huh,
that's,
uh-huh.
that's kind of what we do. But now we're gonna bring up your newest video, which is "Good Old Days," and we'll kind of talk about everything about that song like after we show it. So we're actually
Oh,
gonna show it in its full entirety.
all
We'll
right.
put you on mute, and then we'll come back. Okay.
All right.
All right. So we're gonna get into that right now. I'm just queuing it up. So I'm gonna go on mute, and then we're gonna play it, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Have you ever felt like this? Tell me. I need to take a breath and start thinking for real. Have you ever felt like this? Please tell me. I wanna reset my mind, go back to zero, unplug my fears. Feel my body, feeling pain. Every day it's all the same. I need to escape from this state, switch back to this. Go back to the old days. Go back to the start. Could everything change from overnight? Wanna go back to the old days. You know me well better than I do. People tell me I should date for you. But every bit of darkness is all I see. What the hell is wrong with me? Now you know what I've become. Go back to the old days. Go back to the start. Could everything change from overnight? Wanna go back to the old days.
I activated my audio here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow something else coming through. Wait a second. No, why are we getting something? Okay, we're back. So you can
Nice.
hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
sir.
heard something in
Yes.
the back. Do you have something going on?
Yeah, I'm listening to something in the background.
Oh, you're listening to something in the background? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was.
No problem.
You turn that down?
Uh, no, I don't have anything in.
Okay, let me see where that's coming from. Sorry about that. I don't know why
No,
that's
it's okay. It's okay.
okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Nice.
thing there was something going on the background. I couldn't stop it.
No problem.
But yeah, that's your latest single. Sorry for the technical glitch there, but we were able to show the video. Which so how did you produce that video like in the COVID age of COVID? How did you do that? So that's like my first question, and then we'll get into the details behind it.
All right, so we decided with the band to go to a place so it's not far from here. In Asunción, Paraguay is the capital of my country. So we went to the place and we rent, right? We rent
Hmm.
a place and we went the band and one cameraman. So he just
Shoot the whole thing. Because
shoot
some
all
places
this.
don't even
Yeah.
authorize, like in some places in the world, you can't even do that. They like they won't let you film at all.
Ah,
Um,
okay. No, we
but you guys must have word is
that's
tight.
the thing. The thing here is like nobody cares. I mean, you should
Yeah,
care about yourself, of course.
yeah. You should care, but there's nobody telling you can't do it.
Yeah. So we just go there, and I mean, we went there and we said, okay, so we want to rent this place. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
okay. Just go inside and do whatever you want to do. So we just did the
That's kind of
shoot.
nice because I think I've talked to some bands that like in London and some bands like in the US and different places, and they're like, "Oh, you can't even do that." Right, so
Okay.
they had to go and do something more like virtual reality.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
they can't do it outside with the full band. They can't get it because they won't let them. They say, "Well, you can't have more than one person. You can't have more than two people." They have all these rules. Like I
Hmm.
was dealing with like a band in Australia, and they couldn't even. They were supposed to play my festival, and they couldn't do it. They had to film it the night before, and then they had to all
Okay.
go into lockdown because they wouldn't let them do it. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's kind of cool. So behind the song though, the song that you're writing, so maybe talk about the story about the song itself. And is it part of a bigger project? Is it part of an album, or is this a single that you're going to be working toward an EP? Maybe talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the song is about when you feel when you. I mean, how can I explain? So people tell you all the time you should be like that, you should be like this, and
Hmm.
yeah, you learn. Of course, we learn about that, but sometimes you want to go. Hey, I remember how I was in the how I was before. Like you feel something and you want to go back to the old days. Sometimes, like some nostalgic nostalgia.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
do you say? Also with all this technology, all the things you have every day, like too much information. So sometimes you want to get chill. So let's go to the oldest elites. At least if you are like me, so I'm 38. So I
Hmm.
remember those times when it was like more quiet. So
Yeah,
now it's
yeah,
everything is hurry. You
yeah.
have to
I
be
kind of
hurry.
yeah. That is a bit of nostalgia. I've been hearing other artists because of the pandemic, right? People
Yeah,
been talking about like, oh, I remember like the '80s, or I remember the 2010, or I remember
yeah,
like
yeah.
like I'm a child of the '70s, so I'm
Oh,
in my
no.
50s, right? So I grew up on 8 tracks and vinyl.
Yeah,
I
okay.
didn't have the internet, so if you want to listen to a record, it was 8 track or vinyl, and you had to
Yeah,
listen to the whole thing, right? And that was
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
cool because I think then you got to hear an artist's complete thought, right? Because
Hmm.
usually wouldn't skip around a vinyl. And even in the
Exactly.
8 track, you could skip around, but you still would have to get up off the couch and push the button. And you're like, you probably wouldn't. You probably just let it play. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So, I mean, the old days to me, like when people talk about the old days, I remember having my dad's 8 track or my vinyl or my 78 or my 45.
Hmm.
So, when you guys are talking about old days, like, it's a, when do you go back? Where were you kind of imagining that the old days were for you?
So maybe the 90, 92, 95, and when the Nintendo and
Oh,
Game
that,
Boy
yeah.
and
Back in
yeah.
the day, Nintendo, like
It's,
an NES, like an NES or a 64. I can never
yeah,
forget
and
one of those.
SNES, Super NES,
Super
and
Nintendo, yeah,
maybe Nintendo 64, yeah, and PlayStation 1 and Sega
yeah.
Saturn. Yeah.
When you ask me about that, I'll talk about Atari 2600 and ColecoVision.
Yeah, I had the Atari. I had the Atari.
That was my first video game. I was so excited. I
Oh,
I
nice.
grew up, before video games, we actually went to arcades, which I guess you guys know about. But
Yeah,
the
arcade.
I was in the arcade playing Centipede and Asteroids and Space Invaders.
Okay, I,
And
I I
then
know that.
suddenly
I know
they said, "Oh, guess what? You're going to be able to play Centipede at home." And I'm like, "Really? You're really
that.
going to be able to do that?" And then and then I got the 2600 and it was like, "Oh my god." I took all my paper route money. Instead of buying comic books, I started buying video games.
Okay, okay.
And I stopped buying records too so you can see what can happen.
Okay.
You see today people buy video games more than they buy records sometimes. Like, so it was like the same thing happened back then. All these kids that were buying records suddenly were bringing money to Atari, you know,
Okay, okay.
because like the Atari games cost way more than a record. A
Oh,
record
yeah,
a
because
record was like $6 and an Atari game was like $15.
okay. So
So
is
you
it
would
was like
spend
a
like
try
yeah, it was like a cartridge, and you would have
a
to spend it would like
cartridge.
be 15 $20 for a game back
Okay.
then, and a record was like $6. You could buy like 3 records for the
Yeah.
price of one video game. So you can see what the impact that had on records was that
Mm-hmm.
suddenly kids that were buying 3 records wouldn't buy any record and buy one video game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I can see what happens today. It's the same thing. People go buy $70 PlayStation game or Xbox game
Mm-hmm.
and then don't buy a record and then spend like 6 cents streaming or something.
The the good thing is that they can stream while they play. So they go
Yeah,
to Spotify
yeah,
and
they
then
stream your music then,
it's right there. So it's kinda.
one or the other. But so
Uh,
is this song part of a bigger project?
and for now, we are just releasing singles yet.
Hmm.
So maybe we are going to put together in an album. Maybe we are not
Maybe,
sure yet,
or
or
an
maybe
EP? EP?
an EP could be, and also, or I mean, maybe we can just compose new songs and put an
Just keep on
album.
releasing singles. Yeah, I've been
Hmm.
doing that as an artist. I've been like trying to do both. Like basically, I release singles all the time, and then
Hmm.
I'll release like EPs and albums. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
just because like I have enough material. Can people tell you? Yeah, some people like I had managers that say, "Oh, only release one record a year," but I'm
Hmm.
like, but I've been looking at bands that release singles like every other month. And then you got people on hip hop releasing mixtapes like
Hmm.
every 3 months, or
Hmm.
4 months. And so to me, it's like there's no right way or wrong way. It's like if you feel like you've got enough material, then release the mixtape. Because there's
Hmm.
people that want to hear that. And
Hmm.
and then if they want to do like singles all the time through Spotify, that's cool. And then maybe do an EP and maybe do a vinyl, maybe do a tape. I think because today you have to engage your audience
Exactly. Yeah.
however you think you can, especially if you can't tour. So putting out a lot of material is a good way to keep your audience engaged, I think.
Hmm. And also because they have a lot of options. So
Yeah, and if you disappear, if you only put one song out a year thinking that that one song You can put all your energy into one song, and I'm like, well, that's kind of putting everything into one basket.
And they will forget you like
Yeah,
really
yeah,
fast. Yeah.
I think you need to, in this age, you've got to find a way to engage, you know, guest on other people's records, find a way to get your music into like a video game or get it into
Hmm.
TV or an ad or
Hmm.
or or at least, get on a podcast, and play your video, get
Exactly.
on somebody's like live stream and do a gig. And
Hmm.
so I think so. What is your strategy for what you're doing? Is to try to get your YouTube video out, do interviews, maybe do more online playing, or are you trying to get actually real live gigs?
Well, for now, we are avoiding the live gigs
Hmm.
just because we want to be cautious. Cautious, you say
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So, but we when we release a new song, we do um, advertising. So we advertise through Facebook, so
okay,
through YouTube, Google Ads. So we try to reach more people and see what they think about our song. So we are new, so we have
hmm,
to reach people, and maybe some of them will like, some of them will not like. So
yeah.
that's normal. But as we have those tools, so we have to promote it, and also interviews and get to blogs and
Yeah.
anything that can help to spread the word is
Do
okay.
you guys in where you are in Paraguay, right? That's
Yeah,
where you are.
yeah,
Do you
exactly.
guys do you have like a web? Well, I guess, do you have podcasts that will let you come on locally, or do you have to go on to like European podcast, or like what's the deal? Do you have you been able to do things within your own country, or do you have to kind of reach out to like London and Germany and France and
Yeah, and luckily we have like a networking. So when I when we release, I an email list. So I have an email list and send, and some of them put, yeah, they play the music. And
that's cool.
here we have some friends that has this podcast and also the radio, FM radio,
Oh, they've
and
been putting you on
they
the radio. So
and then,
some DJs have been playing you. You got some DJs helping you.
exactly, yes.
That's cool.
We have not a lot, but
That's
um,
old school. That's like my back in the day. I used to be a college radio. I used to do college radio, right?
nice, nice,
And
nice.
I used to love like the early stuff I was into was like REM and like the
Okay.
Replacements and who's good, like a lot of stuff that was what people used to call college radio friendly or
Mm-hmm.
indie or the indie scene, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
scene. And that was
Nice.
kind of predated like Nirvana because I was into a scene that was like Husker Du. That you had like Black Flag, you had the
Okay.
Replacements,
Okay.
you had all these bands that are on these small labels, and they
Okay.
weren't getting on the main radio, but the college radio scene. And I was one of the DJs. We would play it, and then
Nice.
then eventually some of that stuff got onto MTV. So some
Mm-hmm.
of the
Mm-hmm.
bands like Husker Du and the Replacements and they Black Flag, they would actually start playing their videos on MTV. So certain programs that were geared toward more college age stuff. Sometimes they run them
Nice.
like 2 in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning or late at night.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Nice.
that started to create a buzz. So that at least
Mm-hmm.
there was a place to you could get on MTV. Maybe you weren't in prime time, but
Mm-hmm.
you could actually get your video on. You could get on these college radio stations, and eventually some of the major labels started picking up those bands.
Oh,
Like
nice. Nice.
Husker Du
Mm-hmm.
got picked up by Warner Brothers, the Replacements got picked up by some bigger labels. And so and then eventually, bands like Nirvana and stuff, they kind of name check those bands as inspiration.
Nice.
Like
Nice.
a lot of the grunge bands like were inspired by bands like the Replacements and the Husker Du and REM and all those earlier bands that were doing stuff that wasn't really mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've always been really into the independent artists who are willing to like do something different. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why I like to talk to bands like yourself because I think it's cool to like because you guys are driven to write your own style,
No,
and
okay.
and that's cool. I think people need to not just hear what they hear, in the top 30
Yeah,
in the
absolutely,
radio.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so when you do your music, who were your heroes? For people to understand, who inspired you to write the way you write? Not that you're trying to clone them, but like who are the people that you were inspired by?
Oh, a lot of bands. So one of my favorite bands is Guns N' Roses.
Hmm.
So I know it's different from what we do, but
Yeah,
there is
I can kind of see it though because
okay.
they weren't the typical heavy metal band. They came out of like if you were listening to MTV at the time, it was like Rat and
Mm-hmm.
Poison and
Oh
Motley
yeah.
Crue, and they
Mm-hmm.
were cool. But
Mm-hmm.
Guns N' Roses kind of channeled like the Stones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were kind of like, well, these guys are dangerous, right?
Ex-
These guys
yeah.
aren't just playing around. They're like, if you felt like if you were in a bar, the
Mm-hmm.
Axel would and Slash would like kick you, it would beat you down.
Okay.
They were. It's kind of like the feeling when you saw the Stones in the '60s, right?
Okay.
The
Okay. Okay.
Stones were like dangerous compared to the
Uh,
Beatles. They're like, wow, these guys are like they could hurt you.
nice.
But I think you kind of want that danger in music, and
Uh-huh.
you want to kind of be drawn to something a little dark, drawn to something a little bit scary because like, oh, these guys are tough. These guys are like talking about like real stuff in the dark alley, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of always felt at the field. Like you think about Guns N' Roses, oh, they're on the dark side of the Sunset Strip in California,
Mm-hmm.
where all the
Mm-hmm.
bad things are happening. But but they're in the jungle and they're like, oh, this place is crazy, and we're in there, and you kind of get this vibe. It's like, okay, it's like anything goes. Like in New York, like if you were in New
Yeah.
York City and you're in Harlem or you're in the East Side, and you're like, oh wow, just like yeah, I don't want to be in that dark corner.
Mm-hmm.
But
I get it.
yeah,
But
I think you feel like yeah, that's cool that you channeled them a little bit. I can hear it.
and besides that, and Paradise Lost, so Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Rammstein.
Yeah, I
So
can feel that industrial vibe.
the
It's kind of
zero,
like a mixture of heavy metal and
hmm
industrial,
yeah,
right?
exactly, and also Zero Mancer.
Hmm.
So
That's cool.
also heavy metal, and so death metal.
Death
A
metal.
lot,
Yeah, yeah, I can hear
yeah,
that. Yeah, I can
morbid.
hear that kind of death metal thing. It's like a little bit of like like Ozzy, a little Ozzy.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, that's like he's like the king of that. He's like the start, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
the beginning. It's not where maybe you are, but that's like where it started.
Hmm.
Um, but it's interesting with like you bring up like Trent Reznor, because Trent Reznor to me, because I'm a synthesist, and a lot of times people get in the synthesizer and they think like new wave, and they say, "Oh, Duran Duran and Flock of Seagulls," and I'm
Hmm.
kind of like, I think synthesizers can be more dangerous. I think you can kind of approach a synthesizer like Trent Reznor approaches synthesizers kind of like in the dark alley, like the Stones.
Exactly. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
gives it like this punk edge,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that punk edge is really metal. It's like death metal, but he's showing that you can take like a Moog or you can take an Oberheim or a Prophet 5 or something, and you can run a distortion pedal on it and you can make it
Hmm.
real gritty, and you can make it just as powerful as anything that any death metal band ever did.
Exactly. So there is no rule for him. That's the cool thing.
Yeah,
So and
yeah.
also it's sick. It's like freak and sick. So
Well, like his
that's
lyrics are
great.
real intense. They got that
Yeah.
punk edge. He got that kind of like I always liked Lou Reed
Yeah. Okay.
because Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground kind of increased the vocabulary of what you can do as a songwriter, right? If you think
Hmm.
about the Velvets, they would talk about like I'm talking about like drug abuse and pimps, and I'm talking about like waiting for the man, wait talking about Venus and furs, and it's like all this stuff that's not a love song.
Hmm. Yeah.
you know
Exactly. Yeah.
that's something that's a little dark edge of the street. You got Andy Warhol doing all this weird art around it, and so
Hmm.
you're like, So that means you don't have to start from, oh, I fell in love with my girlfriend and I she broke up with me and I love her or she hates me or whatever. And that ends up being most of rock and roll until you
Hmm.
get guys like Dylan and guys like Trent Reznor, guys like Lou Reed that say, hey, I can do something different. I can
Exactly. Yeah.
actually tell a different side of a story and I don't have to, it doesn't have to be pretty.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be sad. It could be dangerous. you
Yeah,
know?
because life is like that. It's like not everything is nice. So
Yeah,
there
yeah. So
is
it's kind of,
some the dark side as well. So
so you
that's
find that
great.
your fans are kind of into that noir, kind of into that death metal or the darker side or industrial. It seems like if you have fans that are kind of more like death metal heads or heavy metal people that want to hear kind of like Iron Maiden vibe. That
Yeah,
really kind of is that like your core audience is into that? Is that what you find?
yeah. Here in Paraguay is more they listen more to thrash metal
Trash metal,
and maybe heavy metal and a little old school, but we have to do something to different.
yeah, to get it into
But
the
and yeah, and get them into the style. But there is some people. Um, we are basically right now the only band that does industrial. So nobody else is doing right now. Because this scene here is not huge. It's really
hmm
really small. But what we let them know that we are from. I mean, we listen to heavy metal, the
yeah,
old
yeah,
school metal. We know all those bands, but we want to innovate something, put something new. That's why we add the dubstep and those
yeah.
things as well. So, innovation for me innovation is key. So
Gee,
it's
yeah.
key yeah.
So when
So
you guys record, you enter you bring in like the drum machines, you
exactly,
bring in
yeah.
the synths to be able to get to that kind of
Mm-hmm.
industrial beat because you can't if you're just a traditional kind of heavy metal band, it's a
Mm-hmm.
traditional drummer, it's maybe a four-piece outfit and maybe you have a keyboardist, maybe not,
Mm-hmm.
probably not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of traditional heavy metal bands they don't even have it because I remember like Ozzy, they actually invited um the keyboardist from Yes, and he actually played on the record. And they were thinking, oh, maybe we should invite him into the band. They're like, no, because they wanted to be so pure heavy metal.
Yeah.
If they had him in the band, if the keyboardist from Yes was in the band, people were like, "Oh, you're selling out. You're selling out. Like you can't have that." But like you say, like then Trent Reznor kind of made it. Oh, you're not selling out. Right?
No.
You like if you think about Depeche Mode, you think about New Order, you think about
Mhm.
Joy Division, you can come into the idea of a synth and you can be a little darker. You don't
Exactly.
have to be
Yeah.
Duran Duran, you don't have to be The Cure. You can come in and you can have that darker edge. And I've kind of lived in that zone that I feel like the synths get pushed down. People are like, oh, that's like too happy, that's too poppy, that's whatever. And you can because you can do that. I mean, a lot of keyboardists have written things that are maybe too light,
Mhm.
and there's more I mean, I like funk. You think of
Okay.
like a
Yeah.
band like Funkadelic. If you're going to learn how to play, you probably want to learn some funk and some jazz. Um,
Mhm.
but what's cool is that when you figure out how to distort and make really weird sounds, or you know, you know, different types of sounds coming at things from like sound design. And that's what
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
like about Trent because Trent's like an inventor.
And
And
yeah.
he's in the
Mm.
studio and he's got all these modular synths and he's like the wires all over the place. And he's like, oh,
Mhm.
let's try it. I'll just try this. I'll try that. I'll just keep on trying it. And that I think is what you're talking about, kind of progress. Because
Yeah. Exactly.
when you do that and you can come up with something that nobody ever did
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
and
That's.
bring kind of weird noises and strange vibes into things, and then you get what you guys are doing. That's really cool that you guys are willing to be like the only industrial band because because sometimes it's good to be a pioneer. It's good to be
Yeah.
like out front because because then you never know some kids gonna hear you and say, hey, I want to sound like Noisecide. You
Hmm.
know,
And also you have to feel free. You are free doing music, so nobody is telling you, no, it's not like that. It's not like that. So I don't care. I don't care what you say. I don't care what. I want to do this thing,
what
and
your way.
so yeah, exactly. So there is no limit. So people sometimes put the limit on themselves. So I don't know. You have to be free, and art is free. So for me, art is free. You have to be free. If you don't feel free, I don't know what's the point to do art. Is my
Yeah,
point of
well,
view.
art is a whole expression of
Mm.
to me, like I started music, and everybody wanted to do cover bands when I was
Okay.
a kid, right? So everybody was, oh, let's cover the Led Zeppelin and the Beatles. Well, how many
Hmm.
times can you play Led Zeppelin and the Beatles until you get bored, right? So I just like I got bored and I said, well, I want to write my own stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then that puts you in a different position because you get a bunch of guys that want to have a band, but they want to have like a bar band, and all they want to do are play like Aerosmith
Hmm.
and they want to play Leonard Skinner and Led Zeppelin, and I'm like, that's cool, but that's
Hmm.
already been done, and it's probably been done better than we could ever do it.
Hmm.
So why am I going to do a bad version of something that somebody else could see? Why don't I try to do the best thing that I can do?
And
You know?
sometimes people don't want to be rejected. So
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
your own thing is like you have to be patient. So it takes time because people have to understand what you do, have to know you, and people want to do the cover because it's really fast. So I know that song, so it's cool, and everybody likes that, and so it's like that.
yeah. I
I
think
don't.
it is like an easy way. Like if you're a musician and you do want you don't want to go somewhere and get booed. So you're
Exactly.
scared,
Yeah.
like if you ever show up in a pizza club or bar and you
Hmm.
play something nobody knows, it's like 99% chance they're gonna boo you.
But you have to reach them because
Yeah.
I have an experience. We played acoustic and
Mhm.
nobody knew our song. But if you reach the people, they like you don't have to be afraid. They don't know they don't know the song, but yes, if you reach them, it's going to be great. So you have
Yeah.
to trust yourself. That's
Yeah, I think
believe in you.
it's scary because I think as an independent musician, I've been doing this since I was 17 and I'm
Mm.
54. And I
Okay.
remember when my band, we played parties, right?
Okay.
And that's how we were able to be able to, I'm 17, 18, I got a band. And we had to do covers because we're playing birthday parties and people pay us and be like, you gotta do the cover because that's what they want.
Okay. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but then eventually we would sneak in our own songs.
Okay.
So we would practice all like the covers, but then we'd sneak in like two or three of our own songs in
Hmm.
between the popular songs. And people would say, what's that? But we would play everything so loud because we're kind of into punk that we were able
Okay.
to get away with it. Because we come out of a Led Zeppelin song, we kind of like go into one of our own songs, and we didn't really say that we stopped the Led Zeppelin song. We just went into our own, and
Okay.
then we like play our own song for like 4 minutes, then cut it back into like something else, like a Clash song or something. And
Hmm.
so we were kind of going so fast between songs that people didn't have time to boo.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
And we like that was our strategy. Like, well, let's go from song to song so quick that they don't know what we're doing. They don't know where it's coming from. So we just got them kind of captive audience, and they're like, oh, well, they're playing, so it must be
Uh,
okay. But yeah, I think you just do whatever you can. But it's hard when you get out there and you try to do your own material. I think it's a different type of person that is a songwriter. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
because then you're willing to put yourself out there, right?
Hmm.
And you're not just you're taking something that was already done. And I think it's a different type of experience. And I that's why I like to talk to people like yourself because like what made you want to write songs? Like why did you feel the need that you wanted to write your own?
Because I wanna be me. I wanna be me. I don't know how to explain, and also because those artists inspires me. So if they can write their own stuff and they reach me, why I cannot do the same? I mean, I would like to do, and also because when I listen to a band, I always have something that I would like to put. So when I used to do covers, I always put something mine and
For your own
something,
version. Yeah.
yeah, my own version. So it's like something natural for me. So instead of doing the cover, so I do my own stuff. So it's a way to express myself. But the key thing for me is like if Beethoven could do the thing with the piano, if Bach could do that, why I cannot do that? So
Well, yeah.
I'm
Yes.
a human.
I think everybody like my big hero was Hendrix. You know,
Hendrix, oh,
because what
he's great.
Hendrix did is like he went in the studio and they told him you're too loud, right? And then they told him you can't put that feedback on tape. That's stuff we added out, right? But he stuck to his guns. And he
Hmm.
actually, if you read the stories about him, like he was in the studios with all these producers, and it's like these producers were like, and engineers were like, we know what we're doing. We've been doing it since the 30s, and you
Okay.
don't put feedback on tape. You don't do that because that's against the rule, right? There was a rule like, oh, that's bad noise. And
Okay.
Hendrix was like, no, this is
No.
what I'm doing. This so he actually you have to think about it, like the guts of a guitar player to go into a recording studio and
Mhm.
actually tell those guys, no, you're gonna put that feedback on there. You're gonna let me do all this strange stuff you never heard before. And all your teachers told you that you can't put that on tape, right? But he did. And
Because
that kind of opened it up for everybody.
because that's what he were feeling, and he was feeling that. So why put it off? So I'm feeling this. This feedback is great in this part. So I'm feeling why. So he he taught, how do you say, he teaches the producer.
He taught the producers how to deal with it.
Yeah.
If he actually
So
is the first guy to actually force it, that
nice.
for them to actually have to learn how to actually record with feedback and backward, all kinds of weird stuff that he was doing because he was doing like multiple guitar overdubs in different keys and doing like stuff that people hadn't done. And a lot of times, if you think about rock and roll up to Hendrix, the
Hmm.
guitar solo wasn't the prominent thing, right? Most songs just had chord structures.
Hmm.
They didn't have these really elaborate solos. The blues
Hmm.
guys had done it, but not to the degree that Hendrix did.
Hmm.
Hendrix
Yeah.
started introducing like jazz level,
Hmm.
like length in soloing that you only had really seen in jazz recordings where people were allowed to go into solos that long. And
Hmm.
and and it really opened it up for all modern guitar players
Yeah.
that you're allowed to do solos as long as you can. To
Hmm.
be able to layer all the different types of chord changes from multiple guitars
Hmm.
parts. That's all stuff that he was like the innovator on. Like
Yeah.
nobody really had done it. The
Hmm.
Beatles had done it, but not the way Hendrix did it,
Yeah.
where it was more like a lead mentality
Exactly. Yeah.
of a lead guitar player really throwing fairly complicated, beautiful stuff that
Hmm.
almost every heavy metal band kind of owes what his arrangement capabilities to, like, oh, what's possible.
Hmm.
And that's why even as a keyboardist, I look at Hendrix because he did all these sounds with all of his effect pedals that actually sound like synthesizers. They
Exactly.
sound
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
yeah, they sound kind of like what, like if you listen to Electric Ladyland, there's stuff on there that like
Hmm.
Yes and Genesis would later in Pink Floyd would develop it
Hmm.
into synthesizer sounds that came off a guitar with
Hmm.
multiple effect pedals. But he was doing very progressive type structures
Yeah.
that's why I always look at him as like, well, he's one of the first electronic musicians because the use of the pedals that he was using, he was like kind of like the Edge.
Nice.
Edge does
Nice.
all the stuff with pedals that
Hmm.
takes very simple guitar parts and it makes them very complicated. Hendrix, was kind of the opposite. He had very complicated capability
Hmm.
with pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
He's
Yeah,
He's great. Yeah, I used to listen to him a lot, and he inspires me a lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
too.
because I play the guitar as well. So
Yeah, I think everybody still, everybody has their heroes.
yeah.
You can bring up like, um, all the great players that are out there. A lot of cool, like Eddie Van Halen. We lost him. And then
Mhm.
you had, you know, uh, like Richie Blackmore. You got some
Yeah.
really cool, really awesome guys. Ingrid Malmsteen. You got really nice, players that have
Hmm.
done some really innovative stuff in heavy metal, especially there's some really interesting stuff with classical structure.
Hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot of the heavy metal is they really coming from a classical point of view, less than
Yeah.
the blues. Because I'm
Hmm.
more of a blues guy, like I like Hendrix and I like Clapton, like
Me too. Me too.
guys like that. But I do appreciate when you get a guy like an Eddie Van Halen and
Hmm.
other guys that start bringing in more classical structure,
Yeah.
or coming to like into Beethoven and Bach and Chopin and taking those things and putting that into guitar playing.
Hmm.
I think it's cool. Anywhere you go, if you think about it, you can bring jazz into it, you can bring classical into it, you can bring funk into it. I think if you like a little bit of everything,
Exactly.
then you come
Yeah.
up with something new. Because I think if you think about like Trent Reznor, he's taking a little funk, a little
Hmm.
punk, a little heavy metal, some classical, some experimental stuff. It's all over the map. But if
Exactly.
you can
Yeah.
find pieces of multiple genres and what he's doing, and you're like, okay, well, he's just looking at everything,
Hmm.
you know.
And him that makes he is unique. I mean, that makes him unique.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a lot of people just stay inside the blues. Like, oh, just
Ah,
stay
okay.
in traditional heavy metal. Or
Hmm.
I'll stay in type, like pop rock or Beatle type chords, and that's all they
Hmm.
do because it works. Like it's like you get one hit and you've got Beatle chord like changes, or you got one thing and it's all blues based, or it's all kind of like kind of cloning what Eddie did or
Hmm.
cloning what
Hmm.
somebody else did, and you can be successful. Then why not? Why rock the boat? But
Hmm.
so I can understand like, well, why rock the boat? And what do you think today? It seems like there are producers that really don't like to rock the boat. In today's music,
Sorry.
there's a lot of producers that like to do like clone the same thing like
Ah,
over.
okay. Yeah, I think because it's going to be successful, so they don't they go for the how do you say, like, when it
Just
is a
tried
hit,
and true. It's gonna work. They call it like
it's
tried and
going to
true.
work. Ah,
Yeah,
okay, try
it's
and
gonna
true. Okay,
tried and true. It's something that's like it's a formula. I mean, if you
a
think about
formula,
it,
exactly.
yeah, there's some
So
producers that are famous for
maybe
formulas.
maybe because of the pressure. Sometimes you work in a company, so it has to be a hit. So it's better just copying this formula is going to work. So don't think about it. So always when you want to innovate, so people is going to tell you, no, this is not going to work. So people is like, it has to work. It has to work. But you never know. You never know. Maybe sometimes you have like a copy or exact copy, but maybe it doesn't work. I don't.
Well, maybe
How do
because
you know?
the people heard it 100,000 times.
Yeah.
My problem with the copy is like,
Mhm.
like back in the day, you had a bunch of bands that cloned the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
None of them were really the Beatles, right? So
Yeah. Exactly.
people could tell that
Hmm.
you weren't the Beatles, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you would get maybe one song from one of these clone bands to do good, and then they would have no other songs, right? So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
becomes the problem. It's like a lot of people
Yeah.
don't understand. Like if you do that kind of clone method, you might be able to get away with one hit,
Hmm.
but you're probably not likely to get another one. Um,
Yeah.
and and then you're stuck.
And I think it has to be with money. So if you are going to put all your faith in money, you are not going to be creative, because I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
it's
like,
a different vibe. But what you're trying to
yeah.
do, I think that's why I like talking to people like yourself, because like independent musicians, when you ask them why they do what they do, they
Mhm.
always say they do it because I love it. I love
Yeah.
music, right? They don't say
Mhm.
because I'm trying to make a hit, right?
Yeah.
They say because they love music and they
Hmm.
want to put their own imprint on music.
Hmm.
And what I've found is over the years being a DJ and a radio guy, right?
Hmm.
That there are bands that never really got big in their time, but
Okay.
people go back and listen to them and they find out that band was awesome, right?
Okay.
So you get an idea like the Velvet Underground. During their time, nobody really knew that they
Hmm.
were as great as they were. Then
No.
they found out that all these people listened to them, right? So
Nice.
all these people listened to them, and then you found out like tons of artists that created their own bands
Hmm. Hmm.
loved that band. And so
Ah,
my
okay.
point is like every band that's out there can have an impact because
Hmm.
sometimes like you might not be big in your time, but then people might go back and listen to you and say, wow, that was something really big. And so to me, it's all worth doing,
Hmm.
whether you get big or not. It's kind of you do it because you love it. You get to play what
Exactly.
you want. And then if you get famous, you don't. But then there's a lot of people who go back and they find out, well, there's this band that was really awesome and nobody knew about them. And then suddenly they get replayed and they get famous again. And because somebody, took something from them, like what happened with the Velvets.
That's
Everybody,
what I. That's what I always say. It's like if you love what you do, so you'll never quit, even if you don't get famous, because that's what you love. So you're going to do it until the rest of your life. So
yeah.
sometimes I think people is like they have the pressure. So everything, if you are not famous, you're
But
nothing.
they'll give
You're
up. I
not.
mean, I've had a lot of musicians that like gave up on me,
Mm.
and I kept on
Okay.
playing since I'm 17, right? But if you think
Hmm.
about it, like a blues guy in New Orleans or in Mississippi,
Hmm.
there are all these blues artists, they're like 75, 80 years old.
Hmm.
They're not on the top 10. They're not in the top 200. They're not in the top 500.
Hmm.
But they're like awesome blues guys, and they've been playing since they were like 20 or 18.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
and they do it because like and the thing in the blues is like you can be 80 years old playing the blues. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, it's not a young man's game. It's not a young woman's game. You don't have to care about how you look because
Hmm.
the blues is about attitude and life experience. And so when you do that type of music, it doesn't matter if you're 79 or 92. If
Hmm.
you can still play it, people will come see you in New Orleans or in Mississippi. They'll still come see that guy because he's still got it. And
Nice.
so
Mm.
that's to me is like if you get into the game about like, oh, you have to be 18 or you have to be 22, it's a young person's game. It doesn't necessarily, it's kind of like what you bring to the music. I mean, you could be
Hmm.
42 years old and be really slamming
Hmm.
and make something really cool. But then you have all these people like in the machine of music was like, oh, you're not 22, you got a gut or whatever. So you can't sell it. But the
Hmm.
thing about music is it's inside you, right?
Yeah.
It's what and then how it sounds doesn't really match how you look. So
Hmm.
if you have something that's important to say, it doesn't really matter what
Yeah.
what your outward appearance is. If you can get people to hear it,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what you want. So that means you don't have to stop as
Hmm.
long as you can still write. It's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
that's the way I tell people, like, you don't have to give up just because I'm 24, I'm too old. Like, no,
Yes.
I'm too old for music. Really? What type of music? You know,
Yeah.
you can keep on going as long as you want,
And, yeah, and also the thing is that music is not easy. If at least if you want to live like I'm people, I think people imagine a life of musician is like having a lot of money. I don't know. I don't know what,
Yeah,
but
it's not the Beatles.
yeah.
Not everybody gets to
Yeah.
be the Beatles or the Eagles. Like
Exactly.
every
So.
Beatles and Eagles is like a Velvet Underground.
Hmm.
Or there's a Big Star. There's a band called Big Star. It had Alex Chilton. It
Yeah.
was
So
yeah, they never went anywhere.
that's why they quit so fast. People quit so fast because, oh no, I'm not famous. I'm not
Well,
seeing
you're not going to
anything.
be Axl Rose or Trent. Not
Yeah.
everybody's going to get to be Axl or Slash. It's like
Yeah.
people get into it thinking like when I was 17, yeah, I thought, hey, maybe I could be like James Brown. Or maybe, no, I don't think so.
No. No.
But
Sorry. Sorry.
not everybody gets to be that
Mm-hmm.
A level guy, right? You might be shooting for it. Like I want to be like Chuck Berry. like I want to be like Little Richard, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to try to emulate your hero, but there's a point where you realize, like, I'm me, and I
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
do the best I can within what I'm doing, but I'm not necessarily going to hit Hendrix. I'm not going to hit Clapton. I'm not going to be Jimmy Page, right? I'm not going. That's
Mhm.
not going to happen. But you can. But I think punk music told you. If you think
Mhm.
about what happened with the Sex Pistols and the Clash, was they came out there and they're like, you don't have to have good pitch, you
Mhm.
don't have to have the best singing voice, but you had to be authentic, right? So, Johnny Rotten was authentic. He just
Yeah.
said whatever he wanted to say, and he's like, I'm gonna say what I want, right? And
Mhm.
that in itself was the thing. And then
Yeah.
the Clash was like, we're gonna come out there and just slam it and just come out real powerful and just be pure, right?
Mhm.
And I think people appreciate that because when Kurt Cobain came and did it, that's why people like that. I think punk always kind of comes back because
Yeah.
you get like a Joe Strummer, you get like a Kurt Cobain because
Mhm.
it's honest, right?
Yeah.
So when you come in at music in that way, you can't get away from it. Like Kurt Cobain was like, wow, that's just so powerful because he believed in what he was doing.
Mhm. Exactly.
And it
That's
didn't
right.
really matter him. He's screaming his lungs out, but he's saying something,
Mhm.
and that's what really I think people connect with is like if you can come out there and be honest,
Mhm.
that's
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
gonna cut through all the other stuff because
Mhm.
they will cut through. Like no matter what all the people say, if
Mhm.
there are always gonna be room for another Kurt, another
Yes.
Joe Strummer, another person like that. There's always gonna be room
Mhm.
for another person, like another,
Mhm.
even like like Nine Inch Nails, like another Trent. There's always room
Mhm.
for that in music. If you can, so if you believe in it, you put that passion into it, then people are going to respond to it.
Yes. Totally. Totally.
I want to play your other video because I finally got it queued up, and
Yeah.
so
No.
we will play that before we get it come out of the show. But when they show people more of your music,
All
so
right.
let's see. So we've got Falling Upwards. I think I got it queued up, and we're going to play that. Okay, so let me see, make
Okay.
sure it plays. You can hear it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're going to play this, and then we'll talk a little bit about it, and we'll sign off.
All right.
Come, let's eat them.
So that was Falling Upwards by Noisecide, and we're back on.
Mhm.
So that was that. That's I like that performance because I can kind of get the Nine Inch Nail vibe from that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like it's really cool. I like the video because it's got that feel. It's got that
Nice, nice.
kind of punk, and it's still industrial and heavy metal are kind of so commingled, in that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a
And
combination
yeah, it's
there.
a
Yeah.
good vibe because I like that punk edge. You can tell. Like I always talk about the Clash and
Hmm.
and bands like that and Black Flag. I'm very much. I love the kind of guitar power.
Oh, nice. Hmm.
Because I'm a frustrated guitar player and I couldn't figure out how to play guitar, but I figured out how to use a Moog
Okay.
and how to get my Moog to sound like a guitar.
Okay. Okay.
So it's like okay, it's like so like but I don't like keytars because I think they look silly. So I think I'd rather use a stack of keyboards
Oh,
and try to make it sound like a guitar instead of trying to make it look like a guitar. You
okay.
know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I don't want to
I
put
get it.
like a keyboard on and act like I'm a guitar player.
I get it. I get
I'd
it.
rather be at my stack and actually make it sound like that because I'm hitting the things to make it sound like that rather than trying to look like it.
Okay.
You
I
know
get
what I
it.
mean? It's like I don't have to
Mm.
be a guitar hero. But yeah, because it's like
Yeah, but you have those virtual guitars nowadays, so you can
yeah,
play
yeah.
guitar.
There are things you can do that'll make it look like you like can do it. But I'm more like technically I'm trying to just make it sound like it. So I'm concentrating so much I don't need to look like it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's coming from like a musician point of view. But yeah, I just love that fact that we were able to finally talk and see each other and then be able to show people your music, which I think is
Yeah.
the key. And when this gets like it'll be out there permanently on my Twitch, my
Hmm.
YouTube, and my Twitter, and we're gonna push it
Nice.
after and we'll push it onto the audio platforms too. So yeah,
For
they
sure.
usually
For sure.
will get a lot more numbers after the actual podcast comes on. But
Nice.
yeah,
Hmm.
we're hoping that people will go and look at your link. We have your bio in the link below.
Hmm.
We want people to go to your website that you have and go to the links that we've put up on this episode and check out your music.
All
And
right. Thank you for having me, having Noise I here. I'm really grateful. So, and I'm going to share this as well on my socials
that's
and my band's socials for sure.
yeah. We invite you guys if you do want to do a virtual show. We are planning a virtual
Okay.
producer show for November 19th through 21st. So if you're not already doing gigs, we are doing what we did back in July and having our podcast guests do like a 30-minute show from wherever they are uh,
Okay. Okay.
through this platform. And what we do is we show people how to do it, and we tell you how to set up your virtual webcams and how to set up your driver so you can sound good. But yeah,
Okay.
this gives you like in this age of COVID, we figured like let's give a virtual stage to every podcast guest, right? So
Okay.
anybody's been on the program, if they want to take part in that, we're gonna do it again. It's gonna be like a 3-day thing, like almost 8 hours a day
Nice.
of different
Mm.
bands doing their 30-minute set. And so if you're interested, they will be in touch with you if you're into it, and we figure out how we can set that up if you want to do it.
For sure, I'm going to talk to my bandmates. For sure, for sure. I'm asking them.
Yeah, it'll be cool if you're into it or not. But we just asked everybody to see if they're into it. But it's a cool thing to do if you want to. Thank you for being on the show, and we'll put this out. We'll give you the links to it shortly. Where on the Twitch and the YouTube and the Facebook links we'll give you, and we'll give you the other links as they get built in the next hour or two. Okay.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
No problem. So thanks goes to you.
Thank you.
First things. So bye.
Bye.